I'm here to talk a little bit, very briefly, to introduce you to the region of Eindhoven. I don't know, certainly it's not necessarily the best known region in the world, though perhaps it deserves to be. It's in the southeast corner of the Netherlands, which is itself, of course, a very small country by geographically speaking, though one which is always punched above its weight. It's about 700,000 people in it, about a workforce of about 400,000, 4 cities of different sizes, of which Eindhoven is the largest, again gives its name to the region, and the second largest is Helmond, I believe. The interesting thing about Eindhoven is that it was once a company town. It actually exists today because of the Philips company, famous for lighting, famous also for medical technologies and for a number of other technologies. Of course, they made their name in what were called white goods, but have since transitioned into many other high technology businesses. The region itself, though not large necessarily geographically, exports about 55 billion euros a year and has a GDP of about 157 billion. So it's a very strong economic actor. And it's distinctive in my mind because it's a manufacturing hub in a high-cost country. Now, that's a very dangerous thing to be today, and yet they have been successful doing it and have been successful doing it for some time because they focus on high technology in manufacturing, both the manufacturing of high technology. A company there, which is actually a spin-out of Philips, is called ASML. They make the machines that make silicon chips, and they make about 80 or 90% of all of them in the world. So when you pick up your smartphone, when you turn on your computer, there's a chip in there, and that was made by a machine that came out of Eindhoven. So how do they do this? What's their secret sauce to being a high-tech manufacturing center in a high-cost region? And the answer is that they have created really a platform there for open innovation. And we're going to be talking about that in detail, so I'm not going to go into it right here, but it involves business, it involves government, it involves a very active nonprofit sector, many, many different institutions, collaborating together in a very particular way to accomplish business growth, to accomplish the development of a knowledge workforce, to accomplish a tremendous amount of innovation, which is what really delivers their economic success. So you're talking about actors from an enormous technical university to the leading edge technology employed by one of Europe's better football teams, PSV Eindhoven, to Philips itself, to an organization that we'll be hearing from one of their leaders later on today, the Holst Center, which exists to pioneer in technology innovation. So the interesting part about the story, which we'll get into, is that it was not always like this. And that story of transformation is really what we're here to tell today. Well, now, you did it, so it's your fault, so I have to tell the story. There were many images there, of course, of my site visit, and you all saw me putting that thing on my head. And that's a brain scanner that at the whole center they've turned into a much more lighter, simpler, better industrially designed device. And so I put it on my head, and it's remarkably uncomfortable because it's got all these points that point into your head. And they hooked me up, and they got the brain wave, and then one of the, well, my best friend in Eindhoven, just because I've known him longest, is Wim Renders, who turned to me and said, "All right, Robert, now that we have you, are we winning?" And then he turns and looks at the screen to see the answer.
And you got nervous.
Yeah, and he said there was a spike, but we didn't know what it meant. So anyway.
But we took your knowledge.
Oh, you took my knowledge. Oh, God, I've seen that film. Yeah, that's very frightening. Well, thank you very much for joining us here in the United States. Thank you for your hospitality when I was in Eindhoven. Yes. And let's have a conversation. As John set the pattern so nobly, I'm going to ask some questions, and certainly going to invite you to do the same, because this is quite a story here. I think I referenced this in my opening remarks. Every intelligent community has a story somewhere of renewal. We've heard a couple of them, and we had a very enjoyable dinner at which I got you to tell the story of, well, how did this really start? Because nobody's ever been this smart this long. There's always something that happens to us, that forces us to change. And so what was that for Eindhoven region?
Well, Robert, in 1891, the Philips company had its cradle in Eindhoven. And it was a real strong company for, let's say, 60 years. But it was one company city, Eindhoven. And its strength became more and more weakness. And what we saw in the 90s was that there was a severe crisis, an economic crisis, but a crisis, a structural crisis in the company itself as well. So we lost more than 30,000 jobs in 2 years' time. And, well, we had to do something. We had to reorganize ourselves, to reinvent ourselves. And what we did was to make a strategic plan with the stakeholders, such as the companies. There were small companies, and the government, and the knowledge institutes as well. And we started with a fund, so with money. But we didn't do it from top down, but bottom up. So we gathered the money, and the companies could make proposals, and the companies itself looked to what are the proposals and what are good proposals. And then there is a vitality coming back in our economy. At that time, at the same time, we started with the open innovation strategy. And we started with what we called from knowledge to skill to tail. So what we want to do is to bring knowledge to money in the end. And that's very important. So we had a different strategy, and now we are looking to 6 OEM companies in our region, and 100 of other companies. What happened was that the Philips company, it started with fundamental research and it ended with retail. And it has been sliced over and over and over like that. And it has been sliced like that. So nowadays, all these slices are little companies in our region. There are several huge ones, but most of them are small, but they are on the top of the knowledge in the world. And they are suppliers for all these OEMs. And that together is making the Brainport strategy. And we are very proud for the cooperation. Last year, we got, in Europe, we got an organization, the Eurocities. It's an organization of 132 largest cities in Europe. And they gave us an award for the best cooperation between the public, the private, and the knowledge institutes. We are very proud of that. And how we are cooperating, well, maybe Robert, I may tell you, we are doing all kinds of things. But the theme today is health. And the representative of our health institutes are here with a delegation. Maybe you can rise. We are here. What? Well, that's not rise. They're shy, they're moderate. Come on.
Shows you how much power a mayor really has.
Yeah. But I'm proud that we got a strong delegation here from Holland. So they are all supporting the developments we are facing now.
Now, just to be clear, you described in there what was the beginning of what is now called Brainport. You put public money together and said we're going to turn this basically into an ongoing set of almost challenges to private sector and public sector to collaborate and create new innovation in your community. And it's going on today as strong as it ever was.
And it is so successful, probably the people here know about the economy in Amsterdam or Rotterdam. Everybody thinking Rotterdam is the largest harbor in the world and it's bringing in quite a lot of money. But if you compare it to the national economy, the Amsterdam region is bringing in 12.8% GDP. We are bringing in 11.4 with technology and design. And the Rotterdam harbor is bringing in 8.6. So we are the second strongest economy in our country. And that is what we did in the last 15 years with this cooperation. And it brought the national government to an assignment to me as a mayor of Eindhoven to develop a program in which we can achieve new goals. And these goals are that we will be one of the 3 top technological regions in Europe within 10 years. Well, we are already, so that's not a problem. But we must be one of the 10 in the world. That is what they want that we are going to achieve. And that is, well, it's a huge goal. It's big to achieve that, but we are very confident to reach it. And we have made a program on basics, on technology. Technology is not the only thing. It's not the idea. It's business, what you have to use. And we are doing a very good job on business now. And the last one is people. We need people. And there is a lack of people. And so we are looking all over the world to bring people with knowledge to our region.
Now, one of the things that stands out about Brainport, and actually stood out about all the communities I visited this year, was that broadband is we took care of that. And the question is, what has been done in the region to ensure that your citizens, your businesses, and your governments all have the broadband capability that they need?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I want to underline the proud Rob just expressed about our delegation. Because of course we want to win this year. But for me, the biggest win is being here together and having a collaboration, which is the fundament for further collaboration in the Netherlands again. So thank you very much for joining us and supporting our nomination. Looking at broadband, we in fact have the highest broadband density in Europe. And how did we get there? Well, it started with the municipality of Eindhoven and Helmond together, that we had a challenge to put an experimental area. It's called the knowledge community, where fiber optics were laid, and with that small connection and the fast connection, we were able to develop new innovation services through the fiber optics. And to underline the need and the importance of fiber optics, we then decided to make a policy document, started on from the municipality of Eindhoven, and it was immediately took away also by the other 21 municipalities in our area. So the initiative came from Eindhoven, and everyone in our region said that's important for the ICT route 2010, to provide new infrastructure.
So local government pushed, local government spent some national government money, a lot of, if you will, relatively small, not pilots is the wrong word, because you put in the infrastructure. And at that point, that convinced the private sector to start investing. The
private market immediately took up our initiative, and they developed the further infrastructure. And if you see nowadays, for us, broadband is a real utility. It's a need to have, we have that, and that's part of our community. And you see it in the use in schools and in healthcare. Everybody uses broadband, so it's very important for us. And you saw this charming Mrs. Dolmans on the video. And she uses, as an 84-year-old woman, she uses broadband and uses Skype to do her exercises. So it's really, you see that it's important for us.
I don't have time to tell the story, but I've written about it in my blog. I thought it was just fascinating. Mayor van Giesel, you talked about people, about talent, about the very need to develop, to grow, to retain, to attract a workforce. What are some of the ways in which the region does that?
Well, we got a structural measure, but what we did for maybe that is a good example. On the day the Lehman Brothers broke down, we came together. It was a Thursday, and we came together with the captains of industry. So, and we were facing what are the problems that were coming up in the next couple of months and years. And what we did was, we tried to figure out how can we retain the people here? How can we keep them here? It's so important that in a period of an economic go down, that you can keep your people in your region. And what we did was, well, we knew that in the next coming month, quite a lot of knowledge workers in the companies would have been gone out and then gone away for our region. So what we did was that we asked the knowledge institutes, is it possible to bring these employees in your institute temporarily? Partly paid by the company and partly paid, and that's what we asked to the government, partly paid by the government. And so we did. So all these people remained in our region and are back now in the companies again. And in the intermediate period, they could develop the knowledge, but another thing happened. They brought their knowledge from the companies to the public level. So it is now available for all kind of research and development on the Knowledge Institute. And now we are looking, can we do it the other way around? Now we as public see severe problems, financial problems. So the Knowledge Institute must be decreased. So can we bring them over temporarily to the companies and then so that we can go on with the economic tide? That would be a great opportunity when we can succeed in that. The other one is what we call the TOA. It's a cooperation. All the initiatives is a cooperation between public and private. It's a cooperation on technological and educational and labor level, bringing parties together. What we do on international level is our Brainport International Community. There are more than 50 companies working within what we call the BIG, and they are going abroad, and they have a program to bring knowledge workers and companies as well to our region. And a very good example of this cooperation is our expert center. It's an example, I think it's an advanced example on European level how you can have a one-stop shop to bring companies and people into your region, and that all the formalities, housing, all the kind of things are done in one place. So when people come in, then we help the partners, we help the kids, we help them with housing on one spot. And that's a great advantage, I think, and well, that's the way we are trying to bring knowledge in our area. And we are very proud, a couple of months ago, here in St. Louis, we have a next generation. And there are 10, 11 years old schoolers, they're kids, just kids, and they're working in the World Lego League. It's Lego, you know.
You can say Lego for you Americans out there.
Okay. And they found something, they had to invent something, and they had to make a performance there in St. Louis. And what they found out is that there were two things. You got a cooler device in a laptop. They're very small. And one of these kids had found out that if you have a heart attack, then it brings in your blood, well, I don't know exactly what happens, but it goes to your brains and it gives the damage in your brain. When you cool your veins here, then this damage will not appear. And what these kids did, 10, 11, 12 years old, was to invent let's say a collar like that, and with these cool device in it, so that you can cool your veins, and this damage does not appear. That is what they invented. And they brought it there in St. Louis and won the World Award for Lego. Well, that's something to be very proud as a mayor of our city.
Well, I was talking about it and showing a picture yesterday at our workshop.
Okay.
Are there burning questions out there that you'd like to ask of this? Yes, back there.
I've been to Eindhoven many times and always had a good time there. One of the things you haven't stressed, I think, enough about Eindhoven and your success is how you reach out internationally very actively to partner and cooperate with other groups. And I might ask you if you have an official policy on that, or is that something that's just been happening?
Well, we started, let's say when it was only a Philips city. Now, Philips was international. It's a global company, of course. It was international orientated. And we as government followed Philips. So, for example, we do have one of the oldest sister city relation in China, with Nanjing. And it still remains there. And we quite often visit them and we have a new program with new challenges. For example, we will have a World Summit next year in Eindhoven, with the Chinese on the issue, on the theme of energy. Nanjing has gotten the assignment of the Chinese government to develop smart grids. What we do have in Eindhoven is solar energy. So if you combine solar energy, smart grids, and sustainable products like LED lights, and you make world standards, and you can combine companies, bring in all these companies and all these stakeholders in a worldwide, let's say world summit in Eindhoven, and you will get new perspectives. So I was yesterday in Boston, and we asked the MIT to be a partner as well, and they will do so. We have to work it out, but we try. Well, it's one world, and we can together we can make this world better. So we have to cooperate, and we open hands for everybody who is interested in cooperation with our region.
I'd make that a yes.
Yeah, yes.
Any other burning questions out there? Well, I have one, which is, Yvonne, I'll call you that because we had such a good time together. Rob has talked about a number of innovations, and I just would be curious, innovation is really at the heart of what is done in the region, so could you give us some other examples of both in the private and the public sector that you think stand out?
Yes. Well, you already mentioned it in your introduction, the Whole Center, independent international research center, which develops technologies for autonomous sensor systems and sensors on file. And you already showed yourself with the wireless EEG system, where the question popped up, you mentioned, and the EEG system. And you see that open innovation is key to that cooperation. So there are a lot of companies involved by the open innovation, and together they pay the cost from turning research into new developments of new technologies. And then you see that you have a shorter time to market, but also you get far more knowledge. And if you're really interested in open innovation and the Whole Center, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, Jo de Boek, the managing director of the Whole Center, I don't see you now, right? Oh, you're in the back. He will be part of the panel to do the discussion of the open innovation. So that's one example. Another example is the automotive campus, high-tech automotive campus in Helmond. And there you see that automotive companies, educational companies in automotive, and also the researchers are collaboration and working together to share knowledge, to share facilities on testing. And now we see a progress, all thanks to Brainport development, that we have one organization in the Netherlands where all the knowledge is gathered for smart grids, for mobility, for e-guidance and driving guidance. And another example is the food park Brainport, and then you see that already the private companies are pulling and are the energy takers. So not the government is organizing everything, but we facilitate everything. And I think that's important if you see at the collaboration we have, that the companies say what they need and we facilitate that. And that's, I think, the most important thing. Otherwise you are pushing the campus.
One of the things that struck me, and I had a chance to chat with a number of people about when I was in Eindhoven, was that you hear so much about collaboration and cooperation, and it's not as though they're all holding hands and singing some hymns together. There is a lot of very, very aggressive competition going on, and the organizations collaborating in many cases are fierce competitors, but they've become expert in where can we collaborate, where can we do pre-commercial research, where can we work in areas where it's good for you and it's good for me, up to the point where it was nice knowing you, I'm going to take this now and make a lot of money from it. And that's something that seems to be something that happens throughout your ecosystem.
Yeah, I cannot explain how it's caused. Maybe if you look to the Philips company in the past, the Netherlands was not an industrial society. We were mainly on trade and on agriculture. And what the Philips, two brothers, Gerard and Anton Philips, what Anton did was, well, he couldn't rely on the government, so he started his own government. And he started what we call the public-private sector, so he made his own medical services. His sports, PSV, is the Philips Sport Frame. PSV, he did on grocery, he did all kind of housing, everything. He did everything within his company. So there is a tradition, maybe it's in the DNA, it's a tradition of working very close together of the three stakeholders, the government, the business, and the knowledge institute as well. And I think it's an heritage of the Philips company, and it's far more, like you say, it's a tough competition what we are doing. But as far as it's going about the fundamentals, basics, education, culture, we are very much working very close together. For example, we are now making an international school. We do have an international school, a primary and a secondary school. But we are going to make a huge international campus. And then that's quite expensive. So we asked the companies to pay for that, and they are doing so. So what you see is that they see the benefits of cooperation to get a better competition. And it's a unique atmosphere you get on that way, and it keeps us open to the world.
Now, Ivana, we just have another minute. I'm going to risk angering our moderator here, our MC for the day. Our theme is healthcare in the intelligent community, and what's your favorite example from the Eindhoven region, perhaps from your own city, of innovation using information and communications technology in healthcare?
I must say all the projects are very impressive, but if I look at what really touched me was our visit at the Dolmans family and the Health Living Lab, because you see we have a lot of problems coming up. We have aging, we have a shortage of money, we need more technology, we have a shortage of people to get into the care, so you need more and user demand solutions. So there you see that the people can use our technology, but they are in charge. So they can tell us how they want the service to be provided. And that's very important, because we can think and develop a lot of things, but if the customer doesn't adapt it, it's useless. So it's very important for us, the Living Lab. And now we already see that the private companies are taking over those initiatives. So, and then it's successful. And you saw also the problem with the Turkish-American families we have. They're a little bit excluded. There also is a problem for the elderly people, the loneliness. So by using the broadband, by using internet, they get in touch with each other. And now we already achieved for the Turkish, for example, who stay in a home a lot, that they now do exercises outside together. So they started getting to know each other through the internet. And when they discovered it was very good to do the exercises and get healthier, they go outside now and share themselves. And Mrs. Dolman, for example, lived for years next to a Turkish lady. They never changed a word, and now they're doing exercises together. So that's a really achievement of social inclusion. And they're very famous about in the Netherlands, I think. Everybody's included. It's
Maybe
all
you can
inclusive.
give the example of the mental disease as well, what we are doing there.
Yep.
I think that's very. Most of the time you see that we are using hospitals, but this is another example.
Yes. Well, it's very important that somebody with a mental disease can stay independently in a home. And by lighting therapy, but also by communication technology, you can see that it is possible also for the family to be really relaxed about the care somebody gets. And it's not only the person who has a mental disease who has to be taken care of, but also the family who's around that, who wants to be sure that she's or he's safe and secure. And this is a beautiful problem, an example of how we can do that together.
Well, thank you. We have come to the end of our time. I want to thank both the mayor and the deputy mayor for sharing their insights with us. I want to thank, which I should have done at the beginning, and I will do now with great gratitude, the Holst Center and the high-tech campus of Eindhoven for sponsoring this conversation and making it possible. And, well, I hope you'll join me in thanking them for a very informative half hour.
Thank you.